แป๊บนึงนะครับฮัลโหลได้ยินเสียงพี่ปะ recording in progress recording in progress oh my god across the country public places such as libraries and museums are now smoke-free environments. And restaurants are required to have separate smoking and non-smoking sections. Good. And some smoke-free advocates are now campaigning to ban smoking in all restaurants and bars. Do you think this is a good idea? Why or why not? Do you think this is a good idea? Why not? อืมฮัลโหลเป็นไงบ้างวันนี้วันนี้ผมเรียนมือถือเหรอพี่ไม่ได้ยินเสียงเรานะฮะน่าจะมิวเสียงอยู่มั้งโอเคเข้าใจ
อ๋อ
ได้
เมื่อกี้ผมไอ้นี่ครับเปิดแนวตั้งครับ
อ๋อโอเคครับผมไม่เป็นไรนะครับก็วันนี้ก็ชิวๆนะฮะแต่คอนเทนต์เวอร์มากเนี่ยมันยาวเฉยไม่มีอะไรหรอก alright so shall we start for the first question for today class alright discussion alright here we go you can see from the first question first across the country public places such as libraries and museums. So basically for library and museum in the UK, they're going to have like something that is prohibited area, I can say are now smoke-free environment, just because it can attract a tourist, I mean, a tourist destination basically. So for some places, for example, like a restaurant are required to have separate smoking or non-smoking sections too. So what we understand from the first statement is that some places are prohibited to let people smoke or even smoke-free have to be available in those areas, right? Some smoke-free advocates are now campaigning to ban smoking in our restaurant and bar. So do you think it is a good idea? Why not, right? And then use specific reasons and example to support your position. Again, right? So basically, I just want you to make it clear that you have to involve with you have to make a connection in Bangkok first. For example, like if we go to university library, if we go to the temple or some museum that are welcome for a tourist, or even this kind of like high society restaurant, or how can I say? I think like a rooftop or things like that, right? So they're gonna have like things like this. Just mention the example first, and then try to make sure that. What about your opinion here, right? Is that a good idea or not good? And just clarify a bit, things like that. Okay. Don't
โอ
worry,
เค
I'm going to give you for 5 minutes for preparation time, right? Okay.
โอเค Um, I'm quite agree with this statement that we should ban smoking in all restaurants and bars. Um, the reason behind this is that smoking doesn't cause um suffer to only the smoker alone, but there is something that is called second-hand smoker,
Mm-hmm.
which mean that people who just near the smoker can inhale the smoke and can get the list of health from the smoke that they inhale, and the disease that can be caused by the smoke is like too many of them, like maybe cancer or it maybe lung edema or something like this. Yeah,
I see.
so I think that we should ban smoking in restaurants and bars. Or some or if they don't want to, if they want to um keep people to let them smoke in the restaurant, they
Mm-hmm.
should have some section for the smoker, and that section need to be able to absorb all the pollution that caused by smoker. Like maybe use the same idea as when we go to something like um but like the barbecue place in maybe supermarket that we have um smoke absorber in every place in the restaurant. Yeah, that might be some idea to absorb the smoke produced from smoker. Yes.
I see your point here, right? Good, great. Nice to hear from you. So, personally, I think that it is a good idea, just because, I need to, let's say try to connect from the examples here. The first one is that when it comes to talk about library, right, or even museums, I would say that for library or museum, it's just kind of a place that is quite unique and everyone have to visit once in a lifetime if you prefer to be let's say like if you are consider yourself as a bookworm, right? So you have to visit a library. So I would say that the environment in the or library in a university setting or anywhere else it's kind of like those people who stay there. They're quite interested in a quiet place and be healthy. I can say like that. And alternatively, I can say that museums is kind of interesting place too that can be prohibited from smoke-free here, just because museum is kind of like the way that it can attract tourists. For example, if you visit Bangkok, right, for foreigners from Chinese or even Western culture or European or whatever elsewhere around the globe, once they come to Thailand, they just want to visit museum just because they want to see this kind of like traditional belief or uh, what is related to that are different from they used to be. So it's kind of like if we can prohibit the way that is a clean or I mean like a non-smoking section, it might attract them just because it's a kind of like the destination that can be environmentally uh, safe. I can say like that. And another area that you can see, like for some restaurant, right? They have like a portion or even a spaces for non-smoking or even smoking area. So this is kind of like a good idea too, just because I think that it can make sure that those people can be a private. How can I say it? Like a personal, right? Just because if you are a smoker. You might be able to just interact with those people who smoke. But if you don't, you can I mean, let's say like most of the time that you deny or even reject this kind of thing? Is this kind of like the uniqueness or try to separate a group of community in that, like a restaurant or particular places here? Yeah, great. Nah, that's it. Nah, ต่อครับ yeah, word. Are you okay? Okay, look at for second question here ไม่เป็นไรเดี๋ยวมีเวลา timing ให้นะฮะแต่ว่ามันเวอร์นิดนึงเป็นของอเมริกาเนี่ยถ้าเราผมอยากไปทำงานที่อเมริกาบ้าง Would you like to like work in overseas or any expectation to go overseas as a professional or medical professional?
Yeah, I have some plan to maybe study at America for some times and come back to Thailand.
You mean like once you finish your how can I say undergrad medical school right here,
Yes, exactly.
and after that you want to continue further study after you finish or graduating this kind of program, right? Or just working first, or any opportunity to do so?
I haven't think about that
Okay,
yet.
but you're gonna have a chance to go to overseas, right? So you
Yes.
must be fluent. I can say, because I would suggest that this kind of like a discussion part, I never thought my student before because this is quite difficult and a little bit challenging because you've been studying with me for IELTS speaking class already, right? There is no question like this. Even me, I have to think at the same time with you. So it's quite a little bit challenging. So we have to, look at through the information here and then try to make sure that we got the point of saying so. Yeah. All right. So moving to second question here. So we can see from in a small minority of the schools across the nation, right? Students do not earn grades. Rather, they receive regular written or oral evaluations of their work. So basically, regular written, it means essays or even interview, right? Just because it seems to be production of that, individual examination here, right? Some people believe that that is more effective for learning and the grading system, which they believe reward students unevenly and encourages a competitiveness that is counterproductive to learning. How can I say? All right. How do you feel about this issue and use specific reasons and example to support your answer here? So do you agree or disagree with this kind of like maybe new approach of let's say grading system or such a study evaluation here, right? Okay, I think a little bit more details. I think you have to go further to research a bit, right? Okay, good. Go. I'm going to give you for 5 minutes, and then if you're ready, just turn on here.
Okay. Um, this seem to be a bit difficult for me to answer. But if I need to answer, I somehow disagree with the statement that we shouldn't grade student and we should rather receive regular written or oral evaluation. The reason that I don't agree with this statement is that um sometimes I think that competition isn't always bad for students. In reality, we need to have competition in our daily life, especially when we live in society nowadays that many brand producers tend to compete with each other to find the one who can be more popular or yeah, there are many competition in the world right now, especially in the democratic country where we can where we can do do many things freely. So we need to compete with each other to find who is the best. Yeah. So I think that using a grade system indeed may somehow increase the competition between the student, but but that doesn't seem to be the disadvantage because it can make students have a passion to study more than before. Some people may say that the one who are not good at study may feel stressed about this if we use a grade system and there is competition. I don't think that this statement is wrong, but however, we should we should fix the problem in the children to know that they can get better at study and help them study more than others so that they can keep up with the lessons and don't feel so much stressful. So yeah, grade system is okay, but we need to do something like mental health support or something like this to or something that can alleviate the students stressful so that every student can be happy from studying.
I see. Just it mean I can hear that you feel like sometimes like having competition with those exam, right? It might
Yes,
they
yes.
cause some mental issues. I mean mental illness or even like got a lot more pressure on it, right? So it means that you have to change or check a bit into a new thing or even like add on for more approach in order to make sure or facilitate this kind of the exam must be in the right direction, right? Okay. In All right. From this discussion part, second part for today, from my perspective, so I can say that I think for second statement that is they say that learning is much more important than grading, right? But I do believe that when we see in different dimension, I mean, just because I do believe that testing or even exam can be learning too. What I'm saying here is that, for example, like if I let a student to do a writing test, meaning that they have to learn a lot from how to organize, how to timing themselves, how to write properly, how to correct themselves before submitting this kind of assignment. I would say that this is the kind of process of learning too. And for example, like for oral evaluation, it doesn't mean that it just judge your ability to speak, but sometimes like it can be, evaluate the way that you think, Because once you have the idea or much more information on your head, and you have to make sure that you analyze this kind of thing before you speak out. So oral examination or even interviews, it doesn't mean that it tests your ability to speak, but I think that in terms of thinking skill, which is can be learned through a classroom or outside the classroom too, I would say that this kind of exam must be equally important. I mean, for written or even oral evaluation here. So some people said that just learning. Like if you learn and then you didn't even judge yourself that you are master in that skill or not. So I don't think that this is kind of learning, right? Because you don't know where you. Okay, let's say like you can start learning from something else, but you don't know what the end point of that. So I would say that for the assessment or even evaluation here might be a core objective toward those learning too. So anyway, in conclusion, what I'm saying here is that I think it should remain for written or oral evaluations, and then just check the teaching methodology into the different perspective too. For example, like let them do or even try to make sure that learning is not just only learning in the classroom. That's it. ตามนั้นครับเหนื่อยนะ เดี๋ยวหรือยัง เอาให้จบนะอยู่โอเคไม่เป็นไรไม่เป็นไรทันอยู่แล้ว all right so nah, okay so here is a reading fiction is the first of time good why have I not explain the answer by using specific reason and example to support your answer I would suggest for this question is that just because you can develop your skill of reading, right? By extensive reading or even just focus on reading. For example, like if you read for your test, you have to make sure that you get a key point or even the essential information of that. But if you want to read for leisure, leisure activity, you love reading, you are bookworm or whatever I can say. So reading fiction is a waste of time or not. So to what extent is it important to read this kind of thing just because you can enhance the knowledge, right? And I think that you can answer the part of this fiction from those people or your friends who really love reading fiction and how can they master your reading skill. Is that a waste time for you or is that okay for them? Whatever here, right? Okay, good. 5 minutes จัดไปแล้วฮะโอเค
โอเค For me, I really disagree with this statement. Um, I think that reading fiction isn't a waste of time, and it can be one way to spend our free time effectively. The reason that I say this is that although many fiction in the world are not reality and it's just something that is fantasized by the author,
Mhm.
however, it still give a chance for the reader to improve their imagination a lot.
I see.
Um, even the famous scientists like Albert Einstein accept that imagination is more important than knowledge. Yeah, so although reading a fiction, some fiction may not give you any knowledge, but it can strengthen your ability to imagine other things, which is really effective nowadays. That we tend to advance in many ways, really fast, and to advance to the next step, we need a people who have a good imagination to imagine how to make the product better. Yeah.
I see. Great. Thank you so much for your sharing here. I think so. I think so. All right. Reading fiction is not as considered to be a waste of time just because it depends on a personal interest, right? Um, I myself, I didn't love to reading fiction much, but I understand that it is quite of like it depends on the personal preferences or even personal interest. That is, those people who quite good at language. I mean language or even literature, right? So they feel like reading fiction is quite a way that they can do in your free time, right? And it might come up to the best way for them to, improve their ability to read or understand those kind of texts in the literary meaning. I mean, it's not that, a clear meaning at that time, right? So yeah, so to me, I think just because it can help those people who can think outside the box. How can I say? I mean, like just you mentioned earlier that it's about like imagination. We can create some
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
imagination, right? So meaning that for some kind of other aspect, it doesn't mean that it's just only for imagination, but I think it can foster or even improve the ability to think or creativity too, right? Just because when it comes to compare between, let's say, lots of fiction is just quite unrealistic situation, but it can happen sometime for AI or robot, things like that, right? It means that it's all about like what people think and then it happened in reality. So I'm saying here is that just because I do believe that reading fiction is not just only create a skill or skill set that is necessary for real world, for example, like creativity or even imagination that you mentioned earlier, right? And another version of the benefit of reading fiction is that I think it should go further for, how can I say, extensive reading and you become a good reader later. Just because it's just kind of like the way that we can practice ourselves and consistently read from time to time. So it means that it can enhance the skill of reading too. And once you master your reading, so you can do lots of things, right? I mean, like, I think reading is very important skill when you want to do other skill. I mean, like, master other skills too. Just because for writing, you need to read first, or even speaking, you need to remember through reading too, right? Or even listening or whatever here. So it depends on other people. But I would say that reading skills is kind of like important. So this is an option to do so. The last question for today. Many schools offer students who are native speakers of one another language an opportunity to take classes in their native tongue. For example, like if you're Chinese, just teach Chinese language. Am I correct? So they can more easily assimilate and better understand the material. Try to pick it up or even like understand deeply. Some educators believe that there is a disservice and that these students should be immersed. Immersed, it means exposed or connect to the English language, right? How do you feel about this issue? Use specific reason and example to support your answer or your position here. I think the key term is that possible for a native speaker to teach that their own language? For example, English native speaker teach English language or Chinese native speaker teach Chinese language, things like that. Is that right? Okay. Okay, I'm going to give you for 5 minutes for the last question here. Ready? Here we go. That's it.
Um, First, I think that what I understand about this question is that it makes the student who may be a native speaker for example like Chinese to take class take class that is taught in Chinese language right.
Mhm.
Yeah, if I understand it correctly, I think that this may not be a good idea.
Uh-huh.
Um, this is because I think that the goal for in many school that is taught in English have an objective to strengthen the English skill in the student and give them a vocabulary in English that is related to their field of study. For example, like if they study medicine,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
they will receive a vocabulary in English. Yeah. As you know that many words that is in medicine are in
Yeah.
yeah, and in
Technical
Thai,
term. Mhm.
yeah, in Thai sometimes it can be different. Yeah. Um. So I think that doing the things that the statement state isn't a good idea because they will lack ability to work in English. Yeah, and they can just do their work in their own country. Which doesn't seem like to be the objective of the inter school. Yeah.
I see. Thank you so much for sharing here. You just light me up a bit more information on if those students who just want to prepare themselves to become professional, right? In terms of your
Yeah.
career in the future or career preparation, things like that. So it means that they're gonna have the information that can be equipped them to become a user of English and become successful learner too, right? In the real world. Yeah, I do agree for some part of it, right? But I do understand when it comes to specialization. I'm saying just because if you are becoming a doctor in the future, so I do believe that you have enough or sufficient knowledge to to run or decide or do in that particular practices. For example, if you want to order something or if you want to prescribe some medicine, you have to learn like what is this kind of condition, things like that. So it might go more specific in terms of the way that you use in terms of terminology or even specific term, right? So but anyway, in the way of learning a language is quite broad. I mean, to me, I think that it's okay if we can put into practice like that. But sometimes, for this question, is kind of like a native speaker. Let's say, like for English native speaker, right? So I do believe that most of the time, a student prefer to study, let's say, speaking skill with native speaker of English just because they can correct the way that pronounce correct pronunciation or even I think you can know the common use of vocabulary or the way they speak, right? And then just memorize or imitate something, and then you can master this kind of language too. Yeah, so to me, I think it depends. I mean, if you have a skill already, I mean, you learn something, especially for a language, right? And then you can go further with a native speaker. It's quite fine for you and perfectly. But I think if you are a starter, I would say that learning by heart or even learning with those people who are your own language might be a key. I mean, for me, I can say that I let's say the way that I master English, I have a difficulty during the first time. Is that right? And then I have to put myself into practice or even this kind of thing that we can share to the student who want to learn and achieve their goal too. Like what we are doing now is this kind of regularly practice. Is that right? Because we put the same the same how can I say? I mean the same activity, but it's just shift for the different perspective, right? Just because when it comes to speaking for a variety of contexts, so it means like that you have to be prepared for this kind of diverse thing too. And anyway, maybe once we finish this kind of discussion, I'm going to let you share the idea that what did you do for the preschool clinic at your medical studies, or even like what do you want to share, or something like a research paper, or we can come up with this kind of innovation together, right? Okay, maybe later. Yeah. But first of all, you have to master the way you speak to be fluent first. I mean, like you are fluent already, but some kind of like using the word is quite a little bit challenging, right? So it means that we have to be more exposed to the listening skill and even as speaking skill again. Yeah. I think it's time for you. Comment หน่อยสิเป็นไงบ้าง
I think this question in Disney is quite more difficult than before, yeah. Especially the first two.
Right. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So do you think it is useful because it doesn't use in the I mean it doesn't use in the real life much because you are going to work in a hospital in the future. Am I correct? I mean, but you have to discuss this kind of thing. Do you think it is effective to you? I mean, can you share a bit more?
I think that it is okay too because
Yeah.
sometimes I need to deal with difficult conversation like this in
Yeah. It's
so,
because
so I think that it may be some good experience.
Mhm. I have to remind again that if you want to master your speaking skill, you have to listen a lot. I mean, like, I'm not saying that I'm a kind of like ideal speaker of English because I'm not a native speaker. Sometimes, like, I did something wrong too, but I try to imitate myself to be a near native like as much as possible. That's it. And the second thing is that the way you have to understand the culture of American people say to, or even British people. What I'm saying here is that you need to understand the way they speak and the intention of their speakers. Meaning that when it comes to discussion, most of the time, American people they are quite direct and straightforward. If we don't understand some kind of thing, like I mean, like for this kind of like discussion here, they just choose only one side. And they cannot even like compromise every choices or agree things like that. So meaning that if you can choose just only sides, it might be preparation for you to be a better version of yourself too. Yeah. คิดว่าน่าจะพอแล้วนะวันนี้ไม่เป็นไรครับพี่ไม่คอมเมนต์นะอย่างนี้คือตัวคอมเมนต์เนี่ยมันจะเป็นอย่างนี้ครับเดี๋ยวต้องเล่าให้ฟังว่าทำไมถึงไม่คอมเมนต์วะอย่างนี้คือคอมเมนต์เนี่ยที่คอมเมนต์เนี่ยเด็กต้องคอมเมนต์ก่อนเขาเรียกว่า self correction หมายถึงว่าผมจะทราบว่าผมจะหลุดยังไงแล้วแบบผมจะ correct ตอนออโต้ที่เราเขาเรียกว่าที่เราพูดแต่ทีเนี้ยพี่จะ correct แบบกว้างๆไกลๆแบบมองแบบเขาเรียกว่า span นะฮะเก็ตป่ะเราไม่สามารถจะedit จุดอันนั้นก็ต้องเป็น part writing แทนที่มานั่งไล่ sentence structure โอเคไหมฮะเพราะฉะนั้น speaking ก็จะดู fluency กับdevelop idea เป็นหลักนะฮะที่เหลือก็ไม่เป็นไรเพราะว่าเดี๋ยวนี้มันไม่ได้มีปัญหาเรื่องอะไรมากแล้วเนี่ยเพราะ speaking ยังไงก็ได้ขอให้เป็น tool ในการ communicate แค่นั้นเองนะฮะ alright I think it's time for you okay maybe we can see you again week หน้าก็คงปกติแล้ว track ปกติแล้วนะครับเป็นวันเสาร์เนาะโอเคครับสวัสดีครับบ๊ายบายครับ
สวัสดีครับ